Welcome to another handy lesson. In this video, we're going to talk about task-based learning, aka TBL. One of the most complete ELT methodologies nowadays is TBL, or task-based learning. What is TBL? TBL is an approach in which students are going to learn through the process of creating something. That is called a task. TBL is also known as TBLL, task-based language learning, or as TBLT, task-based learning teaching, or TBI, task-based instruction. All of those names refer to the same type of methodology that uses a task, an activity, an evidence, physical evidence that will bring students into the learning process as they are creating something. That is basically TBL, the TBL purpose. So when we talk about TBL, we need to define exactly what a task is. So we as teachers can assign tasks to our students in such a way that we know they're going to learn. So according to Rod Ellis, a task has four main characteristics. It must be pragmatic, it must be flexible, it must provide students with the opportunity to choose the linguistic items, and it needs to be specific. For example, let us say that you assign a task in which basic learners are going to learn how to introduce themselves. So you create teams and you assign them to come up with a Facebook profile, and they have to create this Facebook profile on a paper or carton, right? So in group, they're going to bring material. Okay, so that means pragmatic, it's practical, and it's also meaningful because it's related to something that's of the interest of students. It is flexible because students may use all types of resources, and they can use their own creativity to create that Facebook profile. And then they will choose what they are going to include: name, age, location, interests, hobbies, school, work, everything they want, they can include it there. And it's clearly defined. By the end of a lesson, they need to present a Facebook profile like carton with all the components that it requires. And it's meaningful. That will be the task. Okay, so task-based learning, TBL, is based on an interactional approach or communicative approach, meaning that it aims for students to produce and to communicate using the language, but also it looks for accuracy in fluency, pronunciation, and grammar. Okay, so that is basically what the communicative approach wants. It requires students to be able to communicate. That's a higher predominant objective. So they need to say, to produce, to express, to say their needs. Okay, but it also aims for accuracy. Language is primarily a means of making meaning. That's exactly what I was explaining with the task. So the language is only a tool to produce or to mean something. When the students create a task, they will mean something, they will create and express something with their own words and their own creativity. In order to teach through TBL, TBL just brings an eclectic methodology or an eclectic approach, bringing techniques from the silent way and from the lexical approach. So you, as a teacher, are going to lead students to produce their own meaning by giving them resources, leading them to find the correct resources, and also giving them lexical units. So they're going to construct their language production based on lexical units, chunks, collocation, phrases, just like the lexical approach, but you lead the students as if you were doing it in the silent way. So this is why a TBL could be an eclectic approach of teaching. Conversation is the central focus of a language in TBL, communication through the oral production. However, it also aims for accuracy in the rest of the skills. So it provides both input and output skills. Input and output are also called the passive and active skills. Which ones are they? Well, input skills are the ones in which you receive the language, such as listening, and reading. And output or active skills are the ones in which you produce the language through speaking or writing. This will also affect your lesson plan. When you create a lesson plan based on TBL, you will have either a strong or a weak lesson plan. Strong and weak only refer to the emphasis you give in the skills, to the input or to the output. If you give emphasis to the output skills, speaking and writing, your lesson plan is considered to be a strong lesson plan. But if you give emphasis to the input activities or the passive skills, listening and reading, then your lesson plan is going to be a weak one. Okay. How do you do a lesson with the TBL? Well, there is a moment that is called pre-task, then the task cycle, then after that task cycle is language focus. The task cycle will include the planning and the reporting. And if you notice and remember the lesson on lexical approach, you will find those three moments: task, plan, and report. TBL includes all of those three moments from lexical approach just into the second step of the framework. The first step is pre-task, in which the teacher is going to explain what the students require to do. Also, during the pre-task, the teacher is going to assign and create teams, provide them with resources, and giving them all the proper instructions needed. During the task cycle, task planning and report, students are going to do the task, they're going to plan how to report it, and finally pass to the front or report it in the way they decided or had been instructed to do it. Finally, the post-task or language focus moment, in which the teacher provides feedback, or there could be a co-evaluation between peers of their own works. So that is how the lesson works. So the syllabus in the TBL is not linear, as it is determined by the needs of the students. Okay, Noonan, who is one of the authors for TBL, suggests a syllabus with two types of tasks: real world and pedagogical tasks. Real world tasks are designed to practice activities that we will do in the real life. And pedagogical tasks are tasks that develop the ability of academic language in the students. Pedagogical are more academic, real world are more practical. So those are the two types of tasks that Noonan suggests to do. For other authors, there will be another classification of tasks like jigsaw, information gap, problem solving, opinion exchange, and decision-making tasks. These different tasks are based on how students are going to interact with each other. In the TBL methodology, you also look for creating autonomous learners, just like in the silent way. Therefore, the interaction patterns that you are going to assign to your students is relevant for the learning process. Other characteristics of tasks. Well, we can have one way or two way, whether the task involves one-way exchange of information or two-way exchange. That means if they're going to be able just to produce it, or it's a dialogue, or if they're just going to show an item or any evidence, or it's going to be presented in a video format or in different ways. Okay, so there are more characteristics of tasks that you can look up. You can go and do your own research about the types of tasks that you can follow. The role of a learner, says here, is a participant. Okay, the student is very active in the TBL because it is the student, the one who's responsible for his own learning. He is going to do the activities that he has been assigned to, but his creativity will also be involved, as well as his own ability to research and find information through the web. So that is the role of the learner. It says here is a risk taker and an innovator, because his creativity and innovation skills will be working all the time. As we said in the beginning, the language is just the tool to make meaning. However, the main goal through the TBL is to to provide students with the proper tool of communication, creativity, and interaction with others through the language. The role of a teacher is that of an organizer, a planner, a prompter. It says here a selector and sequencer of tasks. The thing here is that the teacher should be able to plan ahead a series of tasks that will reach an ultimate goal. For example, I am going to create a magazine. So my first week is going to be creating the cover of a magazine. Second week is going to create some articles of a magazine. The third week is going to bring some interviews in a magazine. And the fourth week is going to be a reporting of the whole and presentation of the magazine. So as a teacher, you need to plan the sequence of activities and tasks to reach an ultimate goal. In that way, learning is enhanced by the different tasks, creating meaning to the students, and it's also enjoyable. The teacher needs to have that visualization ability to plan ahead and reach ultimate goals that provide students with the best tools for communication through the language. So, materials. The material, we cannot say that there is a specific material or book for TVL. However, you can use lots of different types of materials, a variety of tools, works, books, handbooks, booklets, anything that could fit into the tasks that the teacher is designing. So, of course, you will use a lot the technological resources such as internet and, well, their mobile devices nowadays. So here we have the framework, as we mentioned before. The framework will go for the pre-task, task cycle, and language focus or post-task. We already mentioned it, but it is very important that this point is clear. Pre-task is the introduction to the topic and the giving of instructions by the teacher. Task cycle will include task, plan, and report, and it's completely based or focused on the student's work. And finally, language focus is going to be the feedback provided by the teacher, maybe some drills, some eliciting of information just to close to make the wrap up of the lesson. So this has been TVL. As usual, you have your practice activity and the references to read more about this methodology. I will see you in the next lesson.